So he posted a link to, it says 50 Cent reportedly developing a surviving T.I. and Tiny documentary.
What would you do if someone threatened to turn the darkest rumors about your life into a worldwide documentary? That's exactly the storm surrounding T.I. right now, after a shocking move by longtime rival 50 Cent. In early March 2026, 50 Cent dropped a message online that instantly set the internet on fire. The post hinted at a documentary called Surviving T.I. and Tiny, a title that immediately reminded people of the explosive series Surviving R. Kelly. But here's where it gets even more interesting. The post didn't stay up long. Within hours, it was deleted. Too late, though, because screenshots had already spread everywhere. Suddenly, the hip-hop world was buzzing. Fans, bloggers, and media outlets all started asking the same question.
He posted it on his page.
Well, it ain't on there now. Did he take it off?
Yeah, he deleted it.
He put it up and then took it down. And everybody grabbed it.
Was 50 Cent actually preparing to expose the most controversial allegations ever tied to T.I. and his wife, Tamika Tiny Harris? Or was this just another calculated move in a feud that has been simmering for nearly 2 decades? While the internet tried to figure it out, T.I. responded in his own way, with music, bold statements, and a message that made it clear he wasn't backing down.
Out of nowhere. We were moving around in LA, man, selling some TV shows while we were around each other, man. You know what I mean? I said, what you think about this? Like, you want to do that shit? I said, yes. He was like, all right, cool. So I told him, I said, well, I'm gonna jump out there first, and then you just gonna jump out there and we'll line it up.
And the deeper you dig into this story, the more complicated it becomes. The tension between T.I. and 50 Cent didn't just appear overnight. What the internet witnessed in 2026 was actually the explosion of a rivalry that had been building quietly for nearly 2 decades. And when you rewind the story, you realize this moment was years in the making. In early March 2026, social media suddenly lit up when 50 Cent posted something that instantly grabbed attention across the entire hip-hop world. The message hinted that he was working on a documentary titled Surviving T.I. and Tiny. The name alone was enough to get people talking, because it immediately reminded many viewers of the explosive documentary series Surviving R. Kelly, which had a massive impact on the music industry. The title suggested that the project could focus on serious allegations connected to T.I. and his wife, Tamika Tiny Harris. But what really made the situation unusual was how quickly the post disappeared. Not long after publishing it, 50 Cent deleted the message from his Instagram page. Normally, that might have ended the conversation. But in the modern internet era, nothing disappears that easily. Screenshots spread across blogs, YouTube channels, and social media platforms within minutes. By the time the post was gone, the entire hip-hop community had already seen it. Almost instantly, speculation began spreading online. Some people believed the documentary might actually be in production. Others thought it was simply another example of 50 Cent's well-known trolling style. Over the years, he has built a reputation for using social media as a strategic weapon during feuds. He often drops a comment, watches the internet react, and then steps back while the conversation grows bigger on its own. For many observers, this looked like another one of those moments. But the post included one detail that made the situation far more serious. In the caption, 50 Cent referenced 20 sexual assault cases, suggesting that those allegations could be discussed in the documentary. That single sentence was enough to reignite a controversy that had originally surfaced years earlier and had already caused major headlines in the entertainment world. The reaction online was immediate. Hip-hop blogs, celebrity gossip pages, and commentary channels began analyzing every possible angle of the story. Some outlets treated the documentary as if it were already confirmed. Others questioned whether it was simply a marketing move designed to put pressure on T.I. While the internet debated the meaning of the post, T.I. himself decided to respond publicly. Instead of ignoring the situation, he took to Instagram and made it clear that he wasn't afraid of whatever 50 Cent might release. In one post, he shared a family photo and wrote a message aimed directly at his rival. The tone was confident, almost defiant. Rather than sounding worried, T.I. made it clear that he believed his family would stand strong no matter what accusations or stories were thrown at them. Not long after that, he followed up with another move that surprised many fans. Instead of just responding with words online, he began dropping new music connected to the situation. One clip showed him sitting with his son, King Harris, working on a track. The message behind it was clear. T.I. wasn't planning to stay silent. If the situation turned into a public battle, he was ready to respond through music as well. For many fans watching from the outside, the entire situation looked like the beginning of a full-scale rap feud. But what made this moment particularly interesting was the timing. T.I. was already preparing to release what he had described as his final album, a project titled Kill the King. Because of that, every piece of drama surrounding him was also attracting attention to his music rollout. Some observers even suggested that the controversy could unintentionally help promote the album. After all, hip-hop history is filled with moments where conflict between artists ends up increasing public interest in their work. But before anyone could fully understand what was happening in 2026, it was necessary to look back at the original roots of the conflict between these two artists. The rivalry between T.I. and 50 Cent stretches back to the late 2000s. At that time, both rappers were at major points in their careers. T.I. had become one of the most influential voices in Southern hip-hop, while 50 Cent had already established himself as one of the biggest names in rap worldwide. Around that period, T.I. faced serious legal trouble involving federal gun charges. The case became national news because prosecutors claimed he had attempted to purchase machine guns and silencers illegally. The situation carried the possibility of a very long prison sentence. Eventually, T.I. reached a plea agreement and served roughly a year in prison. For most artists, that might have been the end of the conversation. But in the competitive world of hip-hop, legal situations often become topics for lyrical attacks and public criticism. And that's exactly what happened here. 50 Cent began questioning how T.I.'s case had been resolved. In hip-hop culture, any suggestion that an artist may have cooperated with law enforcement can be extremely damaging. Whether those claims are true or not, they often become powerful ammunition during rap feuds. In 2008, 50 Cent referenced the situation directly in a track that included lyrics questioning the outcome of T.I.'s legal case. The implication was clear. He was suggesting that the sentence T.I. received didn't add up. Those comments created tension between the two artists, although the conflict never fully exploded at the time. Both rappers were deeply focused on expanding their careers beyond music. T.I. was moving into acting and television projects, while 50 Cent was building an impressive business portfolio that included entertainment production. For years, the rivalry remained mostly quiet, occasionally resurfacing through small comments or subtle jabs. Then the pandemic years brought a new cultural phenomenon that would unexpectedly reignite the conversation. When producers Timbaland and Swizz Beatz launched the online battle series Versus, it quickly became one of the most popular events in music culture. The format was simple. Two legendary artists would face off by playing their biggest hits. Fans loved it because it created a celebration of hip-hop history. And for T.I., it looked like the perfect opportunity. At one point, he publicly challenged 50 Cent to participate in a Versus battle. From T.I.'s perspective, it would have been a huge moment for fans. Both artists had massive catalogs, and a head-to-head musical showdown would have attracted enormous attention. But the response from 50 Cent wasn't what T.I. expected. Instead of agreeing publicly, he laughed off the idea during interviews and on social media. The battle never happened, and over time the conversation faded away. At least that's what people thought. Years later, T.I. revealed something that changed how many fans viewed the situation. According to him, the conversation about the battle had actually happened privately first. He claimed that during a meeting in Los Angeles, the two of them had discussed the possibility of doing the event. The spark came from an entrepreneur from Atlanta named Sabrina Peterson. In January 2021, she posted a message on Instagram claiming that years earlier, T.I. had once threatened her with a gun during an argument. According to her account, the incident had taken place in front of her children. The post quickly began spreading online. Not long after it appeared, Peterson removed it, but by that time, the conversation had already begun to grow. What happened next is what pushed the story into national headlines. In the comment sections and direct messages connected to that post, several women began sharing their own stories about encounters they claimed to have had with T.I. and Tiny. Peterson began reposting many of those accounts on her social media stories, where they circulated rapidly among followers and bloggers. As more people paid attention, the accusations started forming a pattern in the public conversation. Some women claimed that they had met the couple at nightclubs or private parties, and were later invited to hotel rooms or after parties. A number of those anonymous accounts alleged that drinks were provided during those gatherings and that they later lost memory of parts of the evening. Several individuals claimed that when they woke up the next day, they felt confused about what had happened during the night. These stories spread widely across entertainment blogs and social media platforms, leading to intense public discussion about the situation. Soon after the allegations began circulating online, attorney Tyrone A. Blackburn announced that he had been contacted by multiple women who wanted legal representation. According to statements he gave publicly at the time, several people were considering legal action based on the experiences they described. One of the most detailed accusations involved a woman who said she had been serving in the United States Air Force during an incident that allegedly occurred in 2005. According to the lawsuit she later filed, she had attended a party at a celebrity's home where she learned that T.I. and Tiny would be appearing at a nightclub the following night. The woman claimed that she went to the club and met the couple in the VIP section. She said the group spent time talking and socializing while drinks were being served. According to her account, she later accepted a drink that had been handed to her during the gathering. She alleged that after consuming the drink, she began feeling disoriented and physically weak. In the lawsuit, she claimed that she eventually traveled with T.I. and Tiny to a hotel, along with several other people who had been present at the club. At some point during the night, she said she began experiencing dizziness and nausea before eventually losing consciousness. When she later woke up the following morning, she claimed she felt physical pain and had little memory of what had happened during the previous hours. The lawsuit stated that she was escorted out of the hotel by security staff while T.I. and Tiny were still inside the room. As stories like this continued appearing in media reports, the pressure on T.I. and Tiny increased dramatically. The situation became one of the most talked about controversies in entertainment news at the time. However, both of them strongly denied all of the accusations. Through statements released by their legal representatives, they described the claims as false and said the allegations were part of an attempt to damage their reputations. T.I. himself addressed the controversy publicly on social media, explaining that any relationships he and Tiny had with other adults were always consensual. He stated that they had never forced anyone into situations against their will, and that the accusations did not reflect the truth about their lives. While the public debate continued online, legal developments began unfolding behind the scenes. Authorities in several locations looked into the allegations after reports were filed. One investigation was handled by the Los Angeles Police Department, which reviewed the claims connected to the alleged 2005 incident involving the Air Force veteran. Another report connected to events in Las Vegas was also examined by local law enforcement. These investigations attracted significant attention because of the seriousness of the accusations and the high-profile status of the people involved. But the outcome of those investigations surprised many people following the story. After reviewing the information available, prosecutors in Los Angeles announced that they would not be filing criminal charges related to the 2005 case. The reason they gave had nothing to do with determining guilt or innocence. Instead, they explained that the alleged incident had taken place too long ago. Under the law at that time, the statute of limitations for the type of crime being alleged had already expired. Because of that, prosecutors said they were legally unable to pursue charges, regardless of what evidence might exist. Similar outcomes occurred in other locations where allegations had been reported. Law enforcement agencies examined the claims, but ultimately did not move forward with criminal prosecutions. For supporters of T.I. and Tiny, these developments were viewed as proof that the accusations lacked credibility. From their perspective, the investigations had ended without any charges being filed, which they believed cleared the couple's names. But critics saw the situation differently. Some argued that the lack of charges did not necessarily mean the events described never happened. Instead, they pointed out that the cases had been closed because of legal time limits, rather than a full courtroom examination of the evidence. That difference in interpretation created a complicated situation in the public eye. Legally, there were no criminal convictions connected to the allegations. At the same time, the stories that had circulated online were still remembered by many people who had followed the controversy in 2021. Years later, the situation resurfaced again through civil court. In 2024, the same woman who had accused T.Y. and Tiny in connection with the 2005 incident filed a civil lawsuit in California. Her legal team argued that a law passed in the state had created a special window, allowing certain sexual abuse claims to be filed even after the normal statute of limitations had expired. The legislation had been designed to allow alleged victims additional time to seek justice in cases where they believed wrongdoing had been hidden or ignored. However, the lawsuit soon faced legal challenges from the defense team representing T.Y. and Tiny. Their attorneys argued that the claims still did not meet the requirements necessary to move forward under the new law. Eventually, the case was reviewed in federal court by Sherilyn Peace Garnett. After examining the legal arguments presented by both sides, the judge ruled that the lawsuit should be dismissed. The decision was based on legal technicalities related to how the claims had been filed, rather than a determination of whether the events described had actually taken place. The ruling meant the case would not proceed to trial at that time. Even though the lawsuit was dismissed, the situation continued to linger in the public conversation. That lingering uncertainty is exactly what made 50 Cent's social media posts so explosive years later. By referencing those old allegations in connection with a possible documentary project, he effectively reopened a chapter of controversy that many people believed had already faded away. For T.I., the timing of that move felt like a direct attack. And in the world of hip-hop rivalries, bringing personal controversies into a feud can escalate tensions faster than almost anything else. As the situation continued unfolding online, fans began wondering whether 50 Cent actually planned to release a documentary exposing those stories, or whether the threat itself was simply another strategic move designed to shake up the narrative surrounding his longtime rival. As the controversy continued spreading online, the biggest question on everyone's mind was simple. Was 50 Cent actually producing a documentary about T.I. and Tamika Tiny Harris? Or was the entire situation just another calculated move in a long-running hip-hop rivalry? At that moment, there was no official confirmation that a documentary even existed. No production company had announced a partnership, no streaming platform had revealed a deal, and no trailers or casting calls had appeared publicly. The only evidence anyone had seen was a single Instagram post that had been uploaded and then deleted within hours. Yet despite how quickly it disappeared, the impact of that message was enormous. This is exactly the type of strategy many fans associate with 50 Cent. Over the past 2 decades, he has developed a reputation for understanding how the internet reacts to controversy. Instead of always responding directly to his rivals through music, he often uses social media and entertainment projects to shape public narratives. A short message can ignite a massive debate online, and once the conversation begins, it spreads far beyond the original post. That's what appeared to be happening here. Even without a confirmed documentary, the idea alone forced people to revisit the old allegations that had once surrounded T.I. and Tiny. Media outlets began re-examining events from years earlier, commentators started analyzing possible motives, and fans argued across social platforms about what might happen next. For T.I., the situation placed him in a difficult position. Ignoring the conversation could allow rumors to grow unchecked, but responding too aggressively could also keep the controversy alive longer. Instead, he chose a different path. Rather than focusing entirely on the accusations being discussed online, he shifted attention back toward his music and his family. Around the same time the drama began trending, T.I. was already preparing to release what he had described as his final studio album, a project titled Kill the King. Because of that timing, every headline about the feud also brought new attention to the upcoming release. In interviews and social media posts, T.I. made it clear that he viewed the situation as an attack he needed to defend against, rather than a battle he had started. When reporters asked him about the drama, his answers were calm but firm. He explained that his main concern was protecting the reputation of his family and ensuring that the people closest to him understood his side of the story. At the same time, he continued dropping new music and short video clips that hinted at his feelings about the situation. Some of those songs contained lyrics that fans interpreted as responses to 50 Cent, while others focused on loyalty and resilience during public criticism. While T.I. was responding through music and interviews, 50 Cent chose a different approach. Instead of releasing a direct diss track or engaging in long public arguments, he stayed mostly silent after the original Instagram post. But that silence didn't mean he had stepped away from the situation entirely. Around the same period, he released a new song connected to his television universe built around the crime drama Power. Over the years, 50 Cent has expanded that series into a major entertainment franchise through his production company, turning himself into one of the most successful artist-producers in television. Listeners quickly noticed that some lyrics in the song appeared to contain subtle jabs aimed at T.I. and his family. The lines didn't mention anyone by name, but many fans believed the references were obvious enough to understand. That indirect style of response matched the way 50 Cent has handled many conflicts throughout his career. Rather than stepping into traditional rap battles, he often uses a combination of humor, sarcasm, and carefully timed releases to keep his rivals off balance. Meanwhile, the feud began expanding beyond just the two artists themselves. Members of T.I.'s family also became involved in the online exchanges. His son, King Harris, posted messages defending his father and criticizing 50 Cent for bringing old controversies back into the spotlight. Some of those posts went viral, adding another layer of drama to an already heated situation. At one point, King Harris even shared images referencing 50 Cent's past in ways that fans interpreted as disrespectful. The internet quickly reacted, with some people encouraging the confrontation, while others warned that bringing family members into the feud could make things more personal than necessary. T.I. later spoke publicly about that moment, explaining that he had asked his son to slow things down. According to him, there were certain boundaries he believed should not be crossed, even during heated disputes. In particular, he said he did not want the conflict to turn into attacks involving people who were no longer alive or who had nothing to do with the argument. Those comments showed that despite the intense online drama, T.I. was still trying to keep the situation from spiraling completely out of control. Behind all the headlines and speculation, the biggest mystery remained unresolved. Was there actually a documentary project being developed, or had the entire situation been created by a single social media post? Observers who study 50 Cent's career believe the answer could go either way. Throughout his time in the entertainment industry, he has repeatedly demonstrated an ability to turn controversy into attention for his projects. Sometimes the stories he hints at eventually become real productions. Other times, the idea alone is enough to create the reaction he wants. In this case, even the possibility of a documentary was powerful enough to restart conversations about events that had taken place years earlier. The internet began revisiting articles, interviews, and court filings connected to the original allegations. In many ways, the discussion itself became the real story. For T.I., the challenge was navigating that renewed attention while continuing to focus on the final chapter of his music career. After decades in the spotlight, he had built a legacy as one of the most influential voices in Southern hip-hop. Now he was trying to close that chapter with an album that reflected everything he had experienced throughout his journey. Whether the documentary ever becomes real or not could determine how this feud is remembered in the long run. If 50 Cent eventually releases a project examining the allegations and controversies surrounding T.I. and Tiny, it could bring the story back into mainstream headlines once again. Documentaries have the power to reshape public perception, especially when they include interviews, testimony, and investigative storytelling. But if the documentary never materializes, the entire situation might end up being remembered as a masterclass in modern internet strategy. One post, shared for a few hours and then deleted, was enough to dominate entertainment news cycles for weeks. In the digital era, moments like that show how quickly narratives can shift. A rumor can travel across the world in minutes, and a single message can reopen debates people thought were already finished. For now, the only certainty is that the rivalry between T.I. and 50 Cent has once again captured the attention of the hip-hop community. Whether it continues through music, interviews, or potential documentaries, fans everywhere are watching closely to see what happens next. And until a clear answer appears, the story remains suspended in that uncertain space between rumor, strategy, and reality. The situation between 50 Cent and T.I. has turned into one of the most talked about rivalries in hip-hop right now. With rumors of a possible documentary, old controversies being discussed again, and new music entering the conversation, it's clear that this story is far from over. Whether the rumored project about T.I. and Tamika Tiny Harris ever actually appears or not, one thing is certain. The entire hip-hop community is paying attention to every move both artists make. Now we want to hear from you. Do you think 50 Cent is really preparing a documentary, or was that social media post simply another strategic move to stir up the internet? And if a documentary did come out, would it change how people view T.I.'s legacy in the music industry? Drop your thoughts in the comments below because this conversation is just getting started. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want more deep stories about hip-hop, celebrities, and the drama behind the headlines, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss the next video. And before you go, check out our next video